I'd like to start with one image, and you guys have to help me out a bit. What is the common factor in this image? Can anyone tell me? I can't see anyone, so shout it out. Humans, people, true. But the common factor in this image is that they all share one thing, more prominently than anything else, and that is their passion for technology. I wanted to showcase the many faces that we have around the globe. Some of these faces have actually paved the way for technology to blossom in their communities. Others have actually revolutionized it. We usually have prejudices and perceptions in which we actually preference a certain gender or race. And this is what I would like to talk about. I'd like to talk about inclusion and diversity around the globe. First, who am I? Except this beautiful introduction that I won an award, I decided to create with some other of my colleagues a foundation to help refugees. But I actually have a story that has shaped my present and also shapes my future. And that has to do with the way I was born. I was born as a refugee, as a Kurdish refugee. At 5 years of age, I finally landed in Sweden. It was a long road. When I came to Sweden a few years later, I reached my teenage years, and my passion for computer science woke up. I thought I'd conquer it, and I started a course. I pretty much sucked at it. And then I decided that I don't think this is really my thing, so I moved on. Fast forward a few years, premiere of The Matrix. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. That was the best movie ever. And I walked out of there thinking, I'm gonna do that. That special effect, I'm gonna do that. And I started studying graphic design and special effects. The whole purpose of that course was to learn how to do a laser sword online. Really didn't go very well there either. So fast forward, graduated, I left the country. I ended up in the MENA region, Middle East. I spent roughly around 10 years traveling around the world, ending up mostly in honeymoon destinations of conflict zones. And that was also to find myself, find my history, and understand what's happening in that region. Why did we leave it in the first place? I found a lot of things. Among them was to understand inequality. Inequalities are one of the driving forces in insecurity around the globe. It also shapes prejudices and perceptions of other countries outside our sphere. So I'd like to take up a few of these examples of what countries that we perceive look like and what realities they have. To start off with, I decided to land in Africa and choose Kenya. As much as the first image shows a country that is tarnished by poverty and underdevelopment, it actually also has a ravishing development. It is one of the fastest growing economies in Africa, and it's rapidly growing in terms of business and tech. Another example of areas where we know less about, for instance, Indonesia. History tells us it has been tarnished by civil war, ethnic cleansing, and injustices, with an agriculture that is commonly known for underdeveloped countries. But there's also another reality to it, and that is the reality of being one of the largest growing tech hubs in the world for startups. It has a stronger economy than it had 20 years ago, and it keeps rising. The third example, we move on to Middle East. Iran, one of the US favorite subjects, and Israel's as well. We usually see less and less about the country's boom, but we hear more and more about the underdevelopment areas of it. While it has that reality, it also has another reality. it is one of the most intense research countries in the world, with science being one of the primary goals. In addition to that, it has a growing and a very strong export industry of commodities. So why am I bringing these examples up of countries? To address perceptions. We always believe that we know that innovation, technology, education grows the best in developed areas. But we underestimate the developing countries' strengths and experiences. Therefore, I'd like to take 3 examples of countries in those regions in which local initiatives and local needs and problems and challenges have been addressed in a very interesting way. Allow me to introduce to you a project out of Ghana. Ghana had a challenge after the Ebola virus in which lack of access to healthcare and information to recognize symptoms caused a lot of loss of lives. This led to a crew of people who decided to do something about it, find an alternative way. There is a challenge with stigmatization of STDs in Africa, specifically in Ghana, in which fear of coming out and asking for help makes a lot of people to stay at home, in addition to poverty, which makes them not being able to access healthcare. The solution, one of them, was to create an anonymous way of avoiding also taking the step to a doctor by using mobile technology. A very interesting guy by the name of Randolph came up with an app called Bisa. It's the name of, definition of it is called Ask. By developing this app, he also solved another challenge. He created a small team of innovative students and used basically an entrepreneurial spirit in order to create an app that is accessible to everyone in Ghana and also neighboring countries, where they can actually have direct contact with a medical practitioner to address their symptoms and diagnosis. Leaving Ghana and going over to Bangladesh. Bangladesh has a big problem and a challenge of drowning. Over 20,000 people every year drown due to lack of swimming. 50 children every day drown because they cannot swim. Local NGOs tried their best by teaching out how to swim, wasn't enough. So a team of 5 innovative students came up with another concept. If we can't teach them to swim, let us at least equip them. And they came up with a very, very simple, innovative solution. Simple wristband, a balloon, and a great thinking. The third project came out of Jordan, the refugee crisis of Syrian war. A lot of victims lost their limbs, had limited or basically zero access to healthcare and prosthetic limbs due to the cost and the distance to healthcare facilities. A guy called Asim Hasna was a former paramedic volunteer that decided to help his fellow citizens but lost his leg along the way. He ended up in Jordan, met a team of, well, one heck of a Kickstarter project, and collaborated with them on how to solve this problem. The cost of one piece of the prosthetics usually lies around $35. They managed to reduce it with a 3D technology for $1. So they solved affordable solutions with very fast learning curve. He actually programmed his own leg within 3 days of ending up there and started spreading the word, spreading the knowledge to others. He's in Berlin now, having a good life, teaching out, and actually also attended a TEDx talk. So why am I talking about these projects and trying to highlight the need of seeing the diversity out there, the innovative thinking? It's because in some of these countries, with all the limitations and all the restrictions and all the lack of resources, There's an incredible willpower and there's an incredible drive to create something to solve local problems. What I'm trying to do is not only show the diversity, but it also brings us back to why I ended up here today. A year ago exactly, I was part of a large team that helped thousands of refugees. Within my own team, the volunteer crew, we had diversity. We used each and every single person's competence. They were refugees themselves, they were Swedish citizens, and they came from all walks of life. But we also noticed one thing, how technology became a survival tool. It helped them to find their way, to avoid the gates, to avoid the border controls, and to avoid danger and reach sanctuary. This goes back to the next subject. The world as we see it is not fair, and it's not really just, and it's definitely not equal. We are bound by geographical borders that are not natural. We're also seeing that some passports are more valued than other passports. Some races are more privileged than others. When you look at the internet, you don't see any geographical borders. You see a lot of potential. This is the potential I would like to highlight. If you have all these opportunities and technology is unlimited, my interest in seeing the technology being used two-way. Exchange of ideas, exchange of experiences, and exchange of collaboration. It doesn't take much to take that one step forward and try to explore the opportunities out there. You have no borders and you have no limits. So I'd like to leave you with a few closing words from a favorite quote by Dr. Martin Luther King. You all know this one. I have a dream. I'd like to go take it a bit further and say, I might be able to do it. But together, we can get one step closer in making it. Thank you for me.